60-second Disney movie reviews, and it's time to see what's beyond the river bend with Pocahontas. After Beauty and the Beast was nominated for Best Picture, Disney was hungry for Oscar gold. The studio felt that Pocahontas would get them there, and it actually caused a little bit of internal strife at the studio, with animators hopping over from The Lion King to work on Pocahontas, because it was considered more prestigious and more high art. And the result was, not what they were looking for. Pocahontas is one entry in a long tradition of revisionist history regarding the founding of this country, and there's a lot of sticky ethical issues that go along with that. I think people might have been a little bit more forgiving of that if it was better, but it's really not. Despite beautiful animation and beautiful music, the story and the characters are just kinda flat and dull. They were trying to tell a more adult love story with this one, but it just kind of falls flat due to the time constraints and the lack of chemistry. I like Grandmother Willow. I think Ratcliffe is a fun, if misused, villain, and Colors of the Wind is iconic. Other than that, outside of nostalgia, this one just isn't it for me. 60-second Disney movie reviews, and it's time to ring the bells for The Hunchback of Notre Dame. After Beauty and the Beast was nominated for Best Picture, Disney was hungry for Oscar gold. And just like Pocahontas, this movie was the direct result of the expanding ambitions of Jeffrey Katzenberg. And while Hunchback wasn't a huge success for its time, I do think it is far better than Pocahontas. The Hunchback of Notre Dame is a weird story for Disney to adapt, but it's such a big swing that I have to admire it. Disney wouldn't have the guts to do something like this today. There were a lot of changes from the book, but I think most of them were the correct decision for this movie. And a lot of those changes helped to make Quasimodo the compelling hero of his own story. Esmeralda is also one of the best female leads in Disney. And the villain Frollo is one of the most monstrous and despicable villains in all of Disney, and he works, largely thanks to the musical number Hellfire. And in fact, the music of this film is one of the biggest highlights of it, as is the incredible and grand art design. But then there's the gargoyles. Because of them, this movie has some bad tone problems. But if you can get past them, the rest of it is top tier. 60-second Disney movie reviews, and it's time to go the distance with Hercules. After the success of Aladdin, directors Musker and Clements wanted to make a passion project of theirs, Treasure Planet. But Disney didn't really have faith in that project. So the studio cut them a deal to where if they could deliver one more big success like Aladdin or The Little Mermaid, then they could make their passion project. And the result is actually one of my favorite Disney movies. After 3 serious and portentous Disney movies, Hercules was a nice change of pace with something fun and lively. The story structure on paper isn't the best, but everything around it is so good that I never noticed that when I'm watching it. Hercules is a really likable main hero on par with Aladdin. Megara is my favorite Disney heroine, and their romance plot is one of, if not the best in all of Disney. Hades is the best part of this movie and one of the greatest Disney villains of all time. I love this movie's whole aesthetic of Greek mythology meets Las Vegas, and the visual design is one of the best in Disney as well. The music is a bop, and the movie knows how to have a good time without ever sacrificing sincerity or stakes. Definitely one of my faves. 60-second Disney movie reviews, and let's get down to business with Mulan. Mulan is one of those Disney movies that I recognize as a good movie, but it's just not really for me. Let's look at the things I like about the movie first. Like almost all Disney movies of this era, the art and animation is absolutely fantastic. I love the grand and sweeping backgrounds in particular in this movie. This movie breaks down and examines gender a lot, and I really like that aspect of it. It's very honest, and I feel like it also takes advantage of itself for both comedy and emotional sincerity. I'll Make a Man Out of You is one of the catchiest Disney songs, and Reflection is one of the most beautiful Disney songs. But on the flip side, Reflection is such a powerful song that it almost feels unearned, especially since Mulan's fatal flaw at the beginning of the film is clumsiness. That probably could have used another look. This was also the era where Disney was trying to recapture the magic of Robin Williams' Genie, and Mushu is the manifestation of that hubris. If you like him, great. I find him insufferable, and he drags down the whole rest of the film with him. It's not bad, but it's not to my taste. 60-second Disney movie reviews, and it's time to take a walk on the wild side with Tarzan. Tarzan was the last film of the Disney Renaissance, and thus it marked the end of a long line of really successful animated features. And Tarzan, I think, was a very strong note to end on. This is one of the best adaptations of Tarzan, really capturing the spirit of Edgar Rice Burroughs' original works. The lush jungle backgrounds combining techniques of CGI and hand-drawn animation create some of the most detailed and invigorating backgrounds and settings in all of Disney. Though I do think the character animation on this one is a little bit weaker than its predecessors. Tarzan himself is a great main character, and I think this movie does a great job of humanizing him and really getting inside his head for his internal struggle. I love his dynamic with Kala and Kerchak in particular. Jane is great, she's very spunky, she's very fun, but I'm also less enamored by the side characters in this one. And the villain Clayton is serviceable, but not super memorable. Though let's be honest, the thing we all remember about Tarzan is that slapping soundtrack. Phil Collins did not have to go that hard, but he did. 60-second Disney movie reviews, and it's time to step into the next millennium with Fantasia 2000. Fantasia was originally intended by Walt Disney to be sort of a concert feature, where each time you went to see it there would be new segments as well as the old one. And Fantasia 2000 is an attempt to manifest that dream. And as a big fan of the original Fantasia, this movie does nothing for me. It just doesn't feel like it recaptures the magic of the original Fantasia, nor is it its own thing enough to judge it independently. The best part of this entire movie is literally The Sorcerer's Apprentice, which was in the first Fantasia, so yeah. The segments to this one just don't feel as artistic or meaningful or even as enjoyable as the segments from the original Fantasia. With the exception of the Firebird Suite, that one is pretty great. Carnival of Animals and Pomp and Circumstance in particular just kind of feel insulting. I know a lot of people like Rhapsody in Blue and Pines of Rome, but those two do nothing for me. And while the first Fantasia let the artistry really speak for itself, this one has celebrity guest commentators who make the whole thing feel pretentious and at times straight up insulting.